Today we are diving into something that I've been itching to talk about for a while. BMX in pop culture. Ish. Honestly, just how it affected entire generations and affected my childhood. Like, if you grew up in the 80s, 90s, or even the 2000s, BMX wasn't just a bike. It was a symbol of freedom, of rebellion, therapy, friendship, so many things to so many people. If you do enjoy this kind of content, please just think about subscribing, hitting the bell notification. All of that helps. Comments, all of it. I appreciate each and every one of you. And just to let you know, these are more or less my picks. Just leaving that out there before the video starts. This is not like some be-all, end-all, high-ranking order of stuff to come. First off, let's start with the movies. BMX officially hit the mainstream, in my opinion, in the 80s, and Hollywood was all over it. I'm going to start with the cult classic, and really one of the only BMX-focused movies out there. If you're a fan of this channel, you already know it, Rad. 1986. If you haven't seen it, it's about a kid named Crew Jones. It's got small town vibes, it's a coming-of-age story, and one of the gnarliest BMX tracks ever, dubbed Hell Track. It's got everything you need in an 80s cult classic. Underdog energy, sketchy corporate villains, and a soundtrack that just yells out like leg warmers and neon. And you can't forget the legendary but kind of weird BMX prom dance scene. It's just like two kids casually doing flatland tricks on the dance floor because why not? It's the 80s. And the bikes, Mongoose, GT Haru, they are practically the co-stars, along with having many pros from the era in the movie. I rewatched it last week, and it is, well, rather cheesy, but that's where it gets a lot of its charm. It is a classic 80s coming-of-age story that's not just a movie, it's a time capsule. BMX wasn't some niche hobby, it was the coolest thing a kid could do at the time. Now, this movie is right up my alley, but I will say I'm a sucker for 80s cult classic movies. Like, my favorite genre of film is what I deem the Kurt Carpenter films. Any film that John Carpenter directed and Kurt Russell starred in, that's like my go-to movies. But I mean, just look at this. So having a cult classic about BMX with the penultimate scene taking place on something called the Hell Track, that's freaking awesome. And to reiterate, I was born in the 90s, so I would love to hear your thoughts on Rad when it came out if you were there. I love the movie, but a movie like that I would think would just further fuel a kid's already major love for BMX, but not necessarily sway someone who could care less about bikes to take up BMX. I have another movie for that. Rad was the only BMX focused scripted movie, not a documentary, like a scripted movie where BMX was the main thing that all of them do, not that they're riding BMX bikes to escape people that just robbed the bank. It is the main focus of the movie. There's a love story and all that stuff in it as well, but you know, the end scene is on a BMX track, albeit like a hell track, but it is still that. So I put that one at the forefront. Let's just move on. But it's a very small category if you think about it, where BMX isn't just the background object. It's like front and center in almost every scene in Rad, but it wasn't alone. Like, you've got BMX Bandits from '83. It's Australian, it's pretty raw, and it starred a young Nicole Kidman with a mullet that could stop traffic. It's less about racing and BMX and more about these teens that kind of like stumble into a bank heist and they use their BMX skills to outrun bad guys. The plot's kind of dumb, but like in a good 80s, I'd watch it anyway way. If that makes sense. But the BMX scenes are quite legit. Like, it's got that like scrappy DIY spirit BMX has kind of always carried. But here's the thing about BMX bikes in movies, and one of the reasons I even wanted to do a series about kind of pop culture and BMX, it's never really about the bike. It's about what it represents. Freedom, right? Like, think about E.T. in 1982, arguably the most influential movie for BMX. And Spielberg did not have to put those kids on BMX bikes, but he did. That chase scene where they're flying through the suburbs, like running from the cops, and then like, bam, they're lifting off into the sky, like the most iconic scene. That's literal BMX magic, or telekinesis or whatever Mr. Alien was doing. But those were Kuwahara bikes. The point is, BMX became shorthand for freedom in a lot of these films. For freedom and adventure, Hollywood saw it and they ran with it. And I'll say E.T. is the most influential because it was one giant of a movie, as in it held the box office record for years. So it's not a giant movie, it is the giant movie of the time period. Like, think about the biggest movies of now. Think about, like, with Avengers Endgame, the penultimate scene where the Avengers riding BMX bikes into battle. Like, it's kind of the same thing, kind of. But again, BMX bikes were a major piece of E.T. and that film. It would not be the same movie without the bikes. Kids were riding BMX before E.T., yes, but just as Mike Devitt of SE fame said once, the movie came out and then every kid was riding BMX. Okay, let's fast forward just a little bit. The 90s and 2000s didn't have as many BMX blockbusters, but that was because the vibe had shifted. You started seeing BMX bikes pop up in smaller ways, like in a ton of Disney movies. I just remember BMX bikes just being there. They were a part of the meta at that time. But the BMX influence is there throughout all of these movies. Or think about The Sandlot, where the kids are pedaling around, not always on a BMX bike, but close enough that you can kind of feel like it's Echo. And it's less about BMX bikes being the spotlight, but they're there. They are the meta of kind of these 90s and 2000s coming of age movies. Every one of them, kids were on BMX bikes. BMX bikes were still cool at the time, but it was also becoming normal. Every kid had one or knew someone who did. And you do have to remember, like, BMX wasn't a thing. If you're talking about the 90s here, BMX was barely a thing for 20 years. Like, that's even hard for me to fathom when I start thinking about time periods. It wasn't that long before I was born that mountain bikes were invented, and something that I just do every day, you take for granted. The vibe shifted, in my opinion, because BMX wasn't this cool new thing that sold like crack. But, like I stated, BMX was just something every kid did to achieve freedom in that important time period before they got a license and had to grow up. That's why bicycles are so prevalent in the background of all of these coming-of-age stories. Like, think about the small resurgence these old collectible brands had because of the success of Stranger Things. And I'm actually kind of happy the way things have went for BMX in movies and television. It hasn't really gone the way of road bikes or mountain bikes where it's literally like non-existent now, but it became more of a norm in certain styles and a symbol for something, and I like that.
Dork! Jump this manhole! Nice!
Now, movies are one thing, but what about the next thing that came along? Video games, or, as my grandfather says, video games. That's where BMX got its second wind. Let's roll back to 1989. BMX Simulator on the Atari ST and Amiga. It was very pixelated, very clunky, but it was a start. You're racing around these like tiny tracks, trying not to crash into walls that looked like they were drawn kind of like with a crayon maybe. It's basic, but it did plant a seed. And, fast forward to the 90s, we get California games. That one was pretty popular. And the BMX event in it is just pure chaos. Like, you're bunny hopping over logs, trying not to crash. The controls are really stiff. Game kind of sucked. But you swear the bikes were, like, made of concrete. They didn't move really well, but it was the next iteration. It was an improvement. There were also games trying to capture more of the racing side of things, like the Cannondale game on Super Nintendo that is an absolute nightmare. Like, you literally can't unlock a new course until you complete X amount of laps on the one you're on. Whoever thought that was a good idea. I guess it does kind of capture what it feels like to do a mountain bike marathon race, but who wants to sit in their house and do that? But then, the turn of the century started to come around and things got serious. More than likely, cashing in on this success of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX was born in 2001, and this game was my jam. You're doing tricks, 360s, toe-ups, Supermans, off-ramps in these massive levels at the time, like warehouses, skate parks, a freaking aircraft carrier. Matt Hoffman himself, narrates it, and he's all gravelly and hyped up. Go big or go home. I call these games session games, and I think that they perfectly captured the feel of my BMX youth, in my opinion. BMX, to me as a kid, was not so much about racing. Like, yeah, I did try to race, but it was more or less I went to the race and came home and then rode my bike in the cul-de-sac and told my friends all about it. Like, it was, BMX to me was goofing off with your friends, building ramps, getting into good, clean, innocent trouble, and just hanging out. And I did that with this very game, with my friends who would come over and we would literally do the same damn thing in the video game that we did all day. We would goof off all night trying to beat these sessionable BMX games, and it was awesome. Also, we're forgetting that all these games, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater included, really influenced an entire generation's music taste. Like Matt Hoffman's soundtrack had Rancid and Pennywise. I'd listen to all these punk rock bands, and I'd just spend hours free riding, ignoring the objectives, and just trying to land combos. It wasn't just a game, it was a vibe. BMX wasn't niche anymore. It was in your living room, on your TV screen. And games kept evolving. Dave Mirras' Freestyle BMX, which to me is the penultimate sessionable BMX game. The only thing I have to base that on is nostalgia. I played the crap out of Dave Mirra. But it dropped a little bit after, and it was like Matt Hoffman's rival cousin. A similar deal, like, tricks, big air, awesome music, slim gems. Dave's game had a career mode, though, where you're grinding through challenges to unlock new bikes and levels. And like the rivalry between Matt and Dave wasn't just marketing, like it was real. It was two legends pushing BMX into the spotlight, and we got to be along with it with these video games. Like, I'm not saying there was an actual rivalry between like Matt Hoffman and Dave Mirra, but because of having these two separate games, it was always who's on team Dave Mirra, who's on team Matt Hoffman. This game kicks crap out of your game. I played both, just played Matt Hoffman's in secret. I loved the Dave Mirra game, though. That was in the neighborhood. It was king. The next few iterations of these session games were more of the same, just improved upon, which isn't actually a bad thing, but there were a few, like, oddballs. So, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Yeah, I know, it's a skateboard game, but, like, hear me out. It first launched in '99, and it was huge, of course. Everybody knows what this game is. But in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, in 2000, they added Matt Hoffman as a secret character. You could unlock him, ride a BMX bike in a skate game. Physics were kind of wonky, but it was freaking next level. It showed how much influence BMX had. I would consider this kind of the first sessionable, I'm going to call him that. Yep, I'm just going to name him that. Sessionable BMX game. Technically slid itself into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Next, let's take a look at this gem. BMX XXX 2002. Now this one's a little controversial. It's Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 2, but they cranked the edgy dial up to 11. Like, there's strippers, there's swearing, topless cutscenes. Like, it's basically Grand Theft Auto on a BMX bike, even though they kind of did that. We won't get into it. And it's more raunchy, if you can believe it. Kind of felt like you playing this video game. Yes, I do own it, but it kind of just feels like you found your dad's dirty magazines and you just feel kind of dirty playing it. It's okay. It's not that good. It's still a weird little footnote with a deeper story that I would like to pursue, which it really just shows how far devs would push the extreme label, which is par for the course for the skate and BMX scene at the time. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. I do think it's awesome that this was literally going to be Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 2, just raunchy as all get out. Dave hated that. He wanted nothing to do with that game, and that's why it's called BMX XXX. I think there's a great big backstory we can get into with that one. If you guys want to know, leave a comment down below. And then bicycles kind of took the same shift that they did within movies, as being a more normal part of games. Like GTA San Andreas had a bicycle focus, for instance, but obviously not a BMX game. Now, more modern stuff like Riders Republic, which came out in 2021, is this massive open world sports game. You can snowboard, wingsuits, and it's got BMX. They got downhill mountain biking, big jumps, and it's all online with other players, which is awesome, but it's less gritty than the old games, more polished, but the freedom is still there. It still kind of captures it. Again, I just finished Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, where you can ride a bicycle through the entire game, and it is obviously not a BMX game. And the list goes on and on. So, what's the thread here? BMX and pop culture, movies, games specifically, it's always been about breaking free. Rad gave us a dream, E.T. gave us the magic, Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX gave us a controller, and it's not just the stunts, the mindset. Like, Hollywood and devs saw the spark and they ran with it, and it turned a kid's bike into something we all coveted. Like, BMX always captures two things for me, and I think the culmination of all the BMX media was perfectly captured with the Matt Hoffman and Dave Mirra games. BMX, or bicycles more importantly, mean freedom, and for me, therapy. The freedom part is obvious, but I have had some of the most deep conversations, made some of my biggest life choices while on a bicycle, while riding around with friends, and while playing BMX video games. So I wanted to do this as more of a, you know, hopeful thing for the BMX community. Like, BMX bikes didn't go anywhere. It's not like, yeah, maybe sales have went down, the sports went downhill, but that happens with every sport. But take this as like a sign of BMX persevered where road bikes have not, mountain bikes have not, all these other bicycle forms have not. They are not the norm. They are not the meta. BMX and kids are meta in today's world. You know, as these new shows, movies come out, when they want to do something that symbolizes kids and freedom, latchkey kids, it's always got a bicycle involved in it. You don't see that with other forms of cycling. You don't see mountain bikes just being in a movie. And when they are, it kind of seems like it's just shoehorned in there. So I would take that as a sign that BMX has persevered, stood the test of time. Let me know your favorite piece of media. Again, these were just mine. I just wanted to do this short little timeline of my history with BMX and pop culture and how it shaped me. Speaking of pop culture, when I was researching this, did you know Brian Deegan and Dave Mirra had a boxing match like back in 2010, I think, somewhere around there? Like long before this whole celebrity boxing thing was a thing. I'm going to look more into that. I saw a clip of it and I'm like, really? Had no idea. Very weird, but okay. Anyway, I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. I'm working on Supercross Part Dos. It's going to be a good video, so make sure you like, subscribe, stick around for the next one. See you guys then. Bye-bye.
Oh, still got the skin. Oh, radical.
Bro, I feel like a carefree young kid on a bike again, man. Rolling my fingertips.
Yeah.
Oh,
Me too. Why did we stop riding these things in the first place?